Nein, leider nicht mehr.
Alina, können wir machen dann...
Aber um 19 Uhr... ist online. Hoffentlich. Das kann ich nicht sagen. So schnell wie möglich. Test, Test. Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our viewers. Thank you all for your patience. It's been an important moment. I'd like to welcome our guests to the final panel of the first day of the conference, A New Way Forward, Cities for a Welcome in Europe, where we will continue discussing how the new path for human rights-based migration policy can be realized and what role other European actors can play in realizing it. First, I'd like to introduce our speakers. We have an impressive lineup. Professor Gesine Schwan is a political scientist. She's a co-founder and president of Humboldt Viadrina governance platform. Besides her scientific career, she's chairing the Commission for Fundamental Values of the German Social Democratic Party. She's nominated twice as the candidate for the office of federal president in Germany. Next to her is Erik Marquardt. As a member of the European Parliament in the Greens group, his main topics are flight migration and development cooperation. Before becoming an MP, he worked as a photographer and was a council member of the German Green Party. I hope that joining us online is Dr. Heinrich Bedford-Strohm. Yeah. Perfect. Amazing. Thank you for your patience staying with us. Dr. Bedford-Strohm is presiding bishop of the Protestant churches in Germany. In 2019, he co-initiated the alliance United for Rescue, now including almost 800 civil society organizations in Germany, raising funds to support search and rescue missions in the Mediterranean Sea. We have here with us Muhamed al-Kashef, a member of the Watch the Med AlarmPhone, human rights lawyer, migration researcher, community organizer, and active in various migrants initiatives. And finally, Chiarra Cordoletti, representative of the UN Refugee Agency to Italy, with 15 years experience in humanitarian assistance. And she specializes in international protection and external partnership. Thank you all. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Schubert for opening words. Mr. Schubert, today was a remarkable, eventful day for local democracy in Europe, I would say. We haven't seen so many mayors from across Europe speaking up for human rights and migration issues. Could you please tell us about the results very briefly? What did you just agree on? What is the vision presented in the statement just now? Please, the floor is yours.
Das will ich dann gern tun. Ich habe heute Morgen für Leo Luca und mich etwas dargestellt, was wir am Ende nochmal beweisen mussten, alle miteinander. Nämlich, dass man Moral und Pragmatismus zusammenbringen kann. Das war das, was eben noch ein bisschen länger gedauert hat am Ende, nämlich den moralischen Anspruch und die tatsächliche Umsetzbarkeit zusammenzubringen. Und das ist das, was uns Städte ausmacht am Ende des Tages, dass wir eben nach Lösungen suchen, die man dann auch wirklich am Ende des Tages umsetzen kann Und da darf es dann auch mal am Ende ein bisschen hitzig werden, das gehört dazu. Wir haben hier eine ganz tolle Diskussion gehabt über die Frage, wie gelingt es, demokratisch legitimierte Freiwilligkeit statt starrer Vorgaben als einen Weg zu wählen, wo man Befürworter und Skeptiker in den Systemen näher zusammenbringt. Und wir haben bei uns heute auch gemerkt, dass auch in der Familie der europäischen Städte es nicht die Meinung gibt, nicht den Weg gibt, sondern wir unseren Weg entwickeln müssen. Und damit haben wir heute angefangen mit unserer Erklärung, mit der Zusatzerklärung, und damit soll es auch weitergehen in den nächsten, jetzt schon Monaten. Wir wollen ganz konkrete Schritte mit den 32, die jetzt schon unterschrieben haben, unternehmen, und wir wollen natürlich gemeinsam daran arbeiten, dass wir mehr werden. Also auch das Werben an alle, die heute hier sind, an alle, die wir noch begeistern können, auch an diejenigen, die in den verschiedenen Organisationen uns ja schon zusammengebracht haben. Jetzt geht es eigentlich erst richtig los. Jetzt müssen wir versuchen, Menschen hinter diese Erklärung zu kriegen, damit die Stimme, damit das Netzwerk laut wird, und ich glaube, das kriegen wir gemeinsam hin. Von daher war das heute ein erfolgreicher Tag. Ich möchte Leo Luca Orlando an der Stelle nochmal ganz, ganz, ganz herzlich danken, dass wir die Chance hatten, in seiner wunderschönen Stadt zu tagen, die, glaube ich, der beste Ort für das war, was wir heute begonnen haben miteinander. Vielen herzlichen Dank an der Stelle für deine Vorbereitung.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schubert. Now I'd like to start the discussion by addressing the first question to Kashef. As a representative of grassroots NGOs fighting for refugees' rights in the Mediterranean for years now, how do you assess the results of the first day of the conference? Do you share the vision outlined by the welcoming cities? Do you have a feeling we came closer to a common vision of a welcoming Europe today?
Okay, yeah. First of all, I want to thank all the efforts and all the work that put such an amazing network in one place, working for one vision and one aim. That's what we call Welcome in Europe. But first, actually, as a member of the civil society and a member of a grassroots organization and network that working and looking for freedom of movement for a long time, I'm really happy for such a gathering today, and really happy of the intention and the political intention of working to find a solution. But also I want to highlight first the definition of welcoming place, welcoming Europe. We didn't discuss here what the welcoming means for the people who are looking for a safe place. It's not just offering them a free space. It's not just to put them in some camp or lager out of nowhere, not connected to the civilization, to the life, have no access for legal assistance, for psychological support. Most of the people arrived in Europe by their personal efforts, trying the irregular routes, crossing the borders. What we are discussing here today, they traumatized and suffered and struggled a long route until they arrive here. Welcoming Europe, Europe is welcoming people with high potential, high educated, but unfortunately it's not really welcoming the people who are looking for a safe place, who are looking for a psychological support. We don't understand fully their needs. I'm sorry to say that, I'm sorry to depress you, but we don't listen to them, we don't listen to their needs. We just follow the laws, we follow the policies, and we ask them to follow as well. But we don't stay with them, we don't talk with the people in need, asking them for their needs, what the welcoming place means to them.
Thank you, Kashef. Very important point. Now I'd like to proceed to ask Mr. but not here with us at the moment. Okay. that happens. I hope he will be back very soon. And I would like to ask Mrs. Chiarra Cordoletti, as a representative of a UN agency, so a Europe of welcoming communities striving to put humanity at the center of European migration policy. Is this the way your institution share?
It's on now. Well, of course, it is obviously, the view of UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, that should really be at the heart and the center of everything. It is, for me, a big honor to be here, and really excited to see so many mayors coming together to look at the problem of migration clearly from a human rights perspective, and trying to find a common way forward, and reminding the world that, talking about migration, talking about refugee protection is not just a matter of numbers, but it's a matter of really looking at ways in making this a humane process where people, very much in line with what you were saying earlier, I think we are completely forgetting in the discussion that we're talking about human beings. It's all about how many numbers of people have arrived at the shores of Sicily, and how are we managing that, and very little about addressing the needs. And I think the one aspect that is becoming very, very problematic is the whole issue that Sayed was just talking about, the issue of psychosocial support, making sure that we understand that these people are coming with incredible experiences that, unless they're able to process them, unless they're able to go through them and overcome them, it is going to be very difficult to talk about integration, and it's going to become simply a way of sort of using words, but not really making it happen for people who are coming to Europe. So we do need another approach. I think European countries are struggling to find a vision, and I think it's really great to see the mayors are instead at the forefront of this, and trying to give some inspiration on what policies need to be put in place to try and break a bit the cycle of whether it is managing rescue at sea, whether it is managing reception, whether it's managing relocation. We need new ways of thinking that put people at the center and their needs at the forefront.
Thank you so much. A strong statement. I now would like to turn to the European perspective of things and ask Erik Marquardt. So we see the vision that was formulated today by the welcoming cities and the civil society. It is very different from the one proposed by the EU authorities and the Commission. The Commission's new migration and asylum pact proposal is exactly the opposite, right? It's a Europe of exclusion, isolation, containment of refugees, people seeking shelter at European shores. So where does the European Parliament and your group stand on this?
Yes, thank you first of all for the invitation. Thank you also for being here. It's nice to see people in person after 1 year of not seeing people in person. Big question. I try to make it rather short. I would not say that the pact is the opposite of what was the discussion today here. I would rather say that the pact is a mixture of some nice words, some okay proposals, some already found compromises between some member states, which in the end will not solve, unfortunately, the challenges of the European migration policy. But we don't know yet what will happen, because in the European Union, of course, it's not the European Commission making the laws, but it's the European Council discussing with the European Parliament. My fear is that we do not understand as a European Union that there is actually not the biggest crisis because we have no laws or not a new pact or no idea of how to meet the challenges. I think we have a crisis at the moment, not because of people are coming to Europe, like the numbers are pretty low at the moment actually, so it's not a crisis at all. We have a crisis because we have a big lack of solidarity in Europe, and that's why I think the idea, and really pragmatic idea, to say, okay, I'm not in Brussels in an office and I'm not the interior minister of Germany, but actually if refugees come to Germany, they're not coming to the office of Mr. Seehofer, and they're not coming to the office of Mrs. von der Leyen asking, like, can you help me? They're coming to the cities. And that's why I think it's a very pragmatic view to also say, okay, there is solidarity, and there's not only solidarity, but there are also possibilities if we have some solidarity left in Europe. And I think it's a basic, what question was about the pact, but what I think is the idea to not just say, okay, we have a new pact, like it's a pot of gold in the end of the rainbow, and we are searching it for some years now, and we will search it for some other years, and all the problems will be solved if we find it, like a good new pact. I think to find this gold in the end of the rainbow, we need to start somewhere, and we should start by supporting solidarity. What we have at the moment is that people have to justify, or like, how do you say it? You have to explain yourself at the moment, as we also discussed today. You have to explain yourself at the moment if you want to help people in need. And I think Europe is not a European Union based on some financial needs, but if we want to have this European Union, we have to have a European Union where you have to explain yourself if you're not willing to help people in need. And then you find solutions, and then you find maybe a European Commission funding solidarity cities, or however you call it, and then we have a system which will work in the end, and where we can also solve all the other problems. That's my, yeah. There I'm like quite confident.
Great. I think we all are after this long day. Thanks again, Erik, for your intervention. Building on that and turning to the question of how the cooperation between progressive European actors can practically look like, and how we can ensure that the way forward presented here by the Welcoming Cities can be realized. I'd like now to turn to Kashef and ask, what do you think should be the priority of this work of Welcoming Cities, of the Alliance of Welcoming Cities in the next months? What do you expect to happen, and how do you see the role of the civil society in this process?
This is a really hard question, huh? Like reading the future. I would say first thing that if we are asking people to be integrated in the societies, we have to open the societies for them. As Erik mentioned, the solidarity. The solidarity is important, but again, what kind of solidarity? The solidarity that I want to offer to others, or the solidarity that others are looking for? This is one thing. This is actually like a big question that we have to answer. What the form of solidarity that we offer to the people, if they really need that. And the second thing I would say, the priority, the most important thing when we are talking about welcoming cities and we are talking about opening doors for people in need, we have to reform and to think about deportation. Again, deportation, because deportation means that the person is not welcome. The person, actually, I believe that no one will put himself or herself on the sea, on the open sea, until the sea is safer than the land. Until really this is the last hope, this is the last path that they have to go through. And then when they arrive here, with all this hope, finally to find a shelter, they face all these bureaucratic, complicated systems that they don't understand. And in the end, you face like the denial, you face they are not recognized as refugees, they are not welcome anymore, and then deportation orders came. So if we are really thinking about what to do in the near future, we have to think together what to do about this concept of deportation.
Thanks a lot, Kashef. Important point. I'd like to, I see Mr. Bedford-Strohm is back with us. Again, that's absolutely great. Welcome back, and I'd like to ask you the first question. So the German Protestant Church has been very supportive of the efforts to ease the plight of the people on the move in the Mediterranean Sea and address this humanitarian disaster at EU borders. Where do you stand? And today the European mayors agreed that we need to rethink migration policy in Europe. We need to think locally. We need to rethink it from below. And one of the proposals was this complementary municipal reception. Where do you stand on this?
I just want to say that it's a very encouraging day for me. I have been very happy to wait here while you were still negotiating, because every minute was worth it. I think it's a great sign that so many mayors would come together and give this clear signal to European politics, because it's so important to approach this issue from both sides, from the top level of national politics, but also from the grassroots level of the cities, villages, and of all the local places everywhere in Europe. And that's why this really is a sign of hope that European policy, which is in clear contradiction to all the roots, spiritual roots, ethical roots of Europe, that this contradiction will be overcome. And that's why I thank you from all my heart for what you are doing today. For me, this is in the line of encouragement processes that I experience. What we have experienced with this alliance, United for Rescue, is very similar. It started with a press conference with people with asking for donations to support search and rescue missions. And then within a very short time, within basically 6 weeks, more than €1 million was donated, and we could buy the vessel that is now Sea-Watch 4, powered by United for Rescue. And meanwhile, 800 institutions, parish priests, communities, the Catholic Bishop Conference of Switzerland, way beyond Germany, many institutions and organizations have come to support this alliance. So I think there's something going on, and today is for me part of this process, something going on that might, and that's my big hope, change European policies. So I congratulate you for what you achieved today, and I simply hope that this will give a push to many of us in the churches, but way beyond, that try to take very practical steps towards ending this intolerable situation that people continue to die in the Mediterranean.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bedford-Strohm. There is definitely something going on here. That was right. So I'd like to now turn to another aspect that was also mentioned in the statement and ask Professor Schwan, you've been advocating for a stronger role of cities in the migration policy, and the cities stress the importance of direct funding for their humanitarian efforts today. So how do you think can direct funding for municipalities be implemented? I know your organization has been developing some proposals with this regard.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I would also start to thank everybody and the organizers of that conference, because this is so important, not only to listen to news, but also to be that much motivated, because we find so many people who try to act in the same direction. If we regard the European policy for migration or asylum seekers or refugees, it is necessary, of course, that a center of action and also a financial base of that policy is located in Brussels or is located in the European Union. And the main idea is that the potential of municipalities, which is mostly that they are all searching for solutions there is a difference politically between national governments. They do not always search for solutions. They search for power. This is also legitimate, but this is not helpful for refugees. So as that municipalities would have really a base to invite, and this base has to be institutionalized politically as far as I see, and that means as many people have to be included of the municipality to make the decision to invite and to welcome refugees. And I like very much the idea which was proposed in the beginning, namely that it is important that refugees themselves would have a say. And it's easily said that we don't listen to them, but of course it's not so easy to listen to all the refugees, but it would be necessary that refugees themselves and the municipality which would welcome them would have a say where they have to go. Therefore, our proposal is a European fund, but also a matching system by which the municipalities would show and say what they can offer, what workplaces, what social conditions, etc., education systems, but that also the refugees could have an overview about all the municipalities in Europe, what they would have to offer. Probably they go where they have parents or family, etc., but nevertheless that they would also co-decide together with the municipalities where they would go. This is already some more for being a subject. And if the municipalities could have a European financial support and could also have, yes, an incentive, which is politically and symbolically very important. I do not mean that we should not be moral persons and ethical persons, but if you want to go on with the integration of refugees, you have also to think in a general interest categories. What are the interests of the refugees? What are the interests of the municipalities? And how can we also politically, so to say, sell the welcome? And therefore, we proposed that the European Union would create a fund for integration and municipal development, which means that one should bring together the idea of the development of a city or of a community, and therein also the integration, the general integration between poor and rich, between young and older, but also the integration of those who come from foreign countries, because politically integration doesn't mean only people who come from foreign countries, not at all. General integration of a community is necessary. So if you have an institution which would develop the say of the people who live in the municipalities, and which would also respect the say of the migrants, and also have representatives of migrant organizations within the municipalities. This can really make a good integration. And the point is then that the municipalities should get the money for the integration costs from Europe, by that showing and saying that that is a European policy. It's not a national policy, it's a European. But that also the same amount of money would be given, which they receive for integration, would be given to the municipality for different purposes, not only for the integration for refugees. This is important because this would withdraw the argument of right-wing people who would always say, well, you give everything to the migrants, you don't have anything. As soon as you say, well, in the same amount, you get it also for those who live there and who are poor. And these needs are shown, for instance, by the city of Utrecht, which has really well reacted by offering shelter, but also for people from Utrecht. So if you do both, then you can politically withdraw the argument of the right wing, and also psychologically, which is extremely important. And we have now the Friedrich Ebert Foundation and some of the representatives of the European Parliament have found out by a judgment, a judicial judgment, that that is legally possible. So we have now, we need the political will, of course, but it is legally possible to make such a fund, and it would have to be combined with the possibility of the direct access of municipalities to the funding in Brussels, not through the national institutions.
Thank you so much. That was a very important intervention. And I'd like to, Erik, to react to it. What do you think about the idea of European matching procedure and direct European funding for willing municipalities? Do you support the idea? Where do you see the role of the European institutions in this?
Yeah, of course, in general, I support the idea, and it's not only the idea to create a new system, but as I understand it, also an additional system of like, of course, maybe it's not a step where we are in like 2 years that now we just do all the matching procedures with the municipalities, and national authorities have no say on that anymore, but it's in general, maybe you can explain it to me if it's only meant as an additional idea, or if it's like the whole system in the end, and how to go there. I have some small thoughts on that. So in general, of course, it's very important what you say, that funding should not only fund people who come there, but also the infrastructure, but also the societies where people are in solidarity. So solidarity should not only be a moralic issue in the end, but also a financial issue in the European Union, because I think that the European Union in the end, in capitalism, will not work when solidarity costs. Why should it cost? I don't understand when you have a country like Hungary getting 5% of the GDP from the European Union, but is not able to relocate one children from Moria to Hungary. That's not like, you cannot just say no when it comes to solidarity, I would say, and if you can say no, then you have to pay. That's, I think, very important also to get some money in your fund in the end, that all the countries are paying. That's, I think, an important step from the system. So where comes the money from? I think all the European countries should pay for the asylum system, and in the end the countries, municipalities who are organizing the things should be paid. And then I think in the end you can also have this grassroots idea growing and showing good examples where it works. I think we are lacking not the examples, but we are lacking the visibility of the examples where solidarity, or like as you said, the solidarity you said, is where also the possibilities are, where the money is, where the also capacity for relocation is. So some people saying we don't have space in Germany anymore, and if I drive through Sachsen-Anhalt or Mecklenburg-Vorpommern in Germany, there is so much space, there's not even one person at the moment. So I think there are many possibilities. I like the system. I think it's always an interesting, like political interesting question, how to get there. And but I think it's worth starting to go the way, and then we're ending up somewhere you explained, hopefully.
Thank you so much.
Can I lift my hand?
Okay. Okay. Sorry, a quick technical issue. Speaking about the examples that work, solidarity examples that work, I'd like to turn to Ms. Cordoletti. So your organization has been on the ground in the past years, right, witnessing the consequences of the European migration policy. But at the same time, you're involved directly in many of the reception and relocation procedures. My question is, so do you see a potential in this kind of complementary municipal reception, or maybe has UNHCR already worked with some municipalities on the ground? What has been your experience in this matter?
It's on? Okay. So we have just published our global trends report, which was published, every year is published in the context of World Refugee Day, which points to the fact that we today have 82 million people who have been forcibly displaced. And every year we look at, amongst this really, really, really big number, how many of these are at most desperate need to be relocated and to be resettled to a third country. And every year we end up with a relatively minor number, but it's not so minor, of over 1.4 million people. So usually it's a very, very small portion. And of these 1.4 million people, we very rarely ever get there every year in terms of being able to relocate. So what is clear is that relying exclusively on a state and a government-led, central government-led system for resettlement and relocation of people, we're not getting anywhere. We obviously have way too many people who are still waiting in camps and in a number of different countries who have, for either medical reason or protection reason, a real need to find another solution. So clearly, when we talk to governments and we ask why is it that you cannot make more places available, the first answer usually is, well, you know, there's no capacity, cities don't want them, it is very difficult, there's no funding. There's millions of reasons for why resettlement places are so limited and so small. So this, usually the outcome of all of this is that people take by the sea and they get on boats and they end up dying, you know, and finding themselves in the hands of traffickers and smugglers and so on and so forth. So clearly, unless we find other solutions, what we are seeing today will continue, and we need to find alternative ways to provide a safe harbor and a new beginning for people who are in need of protection. And I do believe that the answer lies in the cities. And we have been, especially since 2015, exploring a number of options with a number of cities, which since a number of years are becoming very much at the center of UNHCR's work. Just a couple of days ago, I was talking to 9 municipalities in Italy who are the biggest hoster of refugees to talk exactly about that, and about how do we go about looking at good practices for integration. So I do believe that that what is being proposed, so the cities at the center of response, at the center of answers for refugee integration and for refugee resettlement, it's really what we would like to advocate for. There's a number of good examples. We are seeing positive examples in Sweden, we are seeing positive examples in Canada, but it is still all very much in the making. But I do believe that it is there where we can break down a bit of the political debate, where we can find creative solutions, where not just cities but people can be an agent of solution and change. And I mean, I can talk about Italy because most recently I'm here working, but I've been working in many different countries, and what we do see is that usually the most interesting, creative, humane responses come from citizens, come from the people who are willing to very much share and give people a new beginning. So I think it is where we should be going. I think that the fact that we have so many municipalities here today, they have made a commitment, is extremely important. And for us, UNHCR will continue to focus on cities as a place of welcome and as a place for refugee integration and refugee resettlement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. That's been a great concluding statement. Yes, just a second, I'm concluding this. Thank you so much. So due to time constraints, unfortunately we need to wrap up very quickly. So thank you so much for the great exchange. We certainly could talk more about this, the topics of direct reception and role of cities. Today's events and this panel can only be seen as the beginning of the joint new effort of the cities and the civil society rethinking migration policy And I think the dialogue should be continued. What's become visible today and in this panel again is the commitment on the part of so many institutionally European actors. So a lot of work ahead of us. Don't forget to join tomorrow for the second day of the conference. Any last words? Thank you.
Yeah, just a last word. Sorry that we started late already, but the thing that just to keep in mind, we are doing here a reactive work because people are fleeing danger, will keep running, will keep fleeing, will keep crossing the sea, and they will keep arriving. So thank you for your efforts, and please keep continue. And I wanna thank especially the mayor of Palermo because taking this initiative since 3 years until we reach this moment. And I believe that together we will reach the place, the point that we are working for. Thank you.
Mr. Orlando?
I wish to say thanks to everyone. I wish to just say thanks and send my warm greetings to Bishop Heinrich Bedford-Strohm. He's a Palermitan, so it's normal that I greet another Palermitan. And we are waiting for you in September. It will be a fantastic day. But I think the best way just to greet the Bishop Heinrich Bedford-Strohm is to send the video with the Archbischop of Palermo, just saying thanks to the Bishop and the Bishop of Mazzara del Vallo, that is really in the borderline, just welcoming persons and people. But before sending these two videos, I wish to say freedom, equality, and fraternity. For 200 years, somebody say that freedom is more important than equality. And somebody said, let's be free, then we'll be equal. The other side was somebody saying, let's be equal, then we'll be free. The first position was politically right-oriented. The second position was left politically oriented. So the first saying freedom, the second say equal. We forgot just fraternity. I think it's the moment just thanking the people being migrant in human international mobility to say that the value of fraternity can be important. But I am not a bishop, so I cannot speak about fraternity. So I speak about solidarity. Let me speak about solidarity. So freedom, equality, and solidarity. I say solidarity, but I think fraternity. Thanks a lot.
Ringrazio il sindaco di Palermo e di Potsdam e tutti i sindaci che si ritroveranno in questa conferenza delle città per una Europa accogliente, dal mare alla città. Ed è un motivo di grande speranza la vostra volontà di aprire le città che servite all'accoglienza dei rifugiati, a quanti cercano asilo e attraversano il mare Mediterraneo per dare volto ad una Europa senza frontiere. Ma mi permettete di salutare con particolare affetto anche il carissimo fratello vescovo evangelico luterano Heinrich Bedford-Strohm, presidente del Consiglio della Chiesa evangelica in Germania. Le nostre città e le nostre chiese siano concreti e audaci opifici di una nuova fraternità universale, di un pianeta Terra, casa comune, dove ogni persona possa essere riconosciuta, accolta, integrata, amata. Vi auguro un buon lavoro, pace e bene a tutti.
Buongiorno. Porgo volentieri il mio saluto di benvenuto e di buon lavoro a tutti voi partecipanti a questa conferenza delle città di una Europa accogliente, che ha il significativo titolo di Dal mare alla città. Chi va in mare non ci va per starci in modo stabile, cerca un approdo sicuro, cerca una terra su cui poggiare i propri piedi e su cui stabilirsi per dare un futuro e una speranza al proprio progetto di vita e alle proprie aspettative. E questa problematica dell'accoglienza è veramente una problematica che attinge alla natura dell'uomo. Dice San Paolo nella lettera agli Efesini: nessuno ha mai preso in odio la propria carne, al contrario la nutre e la cura. E quelli che si avventurano in mare per dare corpo alle loro speranze, per sfuggire alle insidie mortali, alle persecuzioni, alla miseria, a tutto ciò che impedisce loro di realizzarsi nella loro dignità di persone e nell'esercizio dei loro diritti, sono carne nostra e nessuno mai può prendere in odio questa carne che ci appartiene, che è carne della nostra carne. Al contrario, è naturale che se ne prenda cura e la nutra. È quello che si chiede a questa Europa dei diritti, a questa Europa che nel tempo è stata un'Europa di accoglienza, a questa Europa delle città, non tanto degli stati o della politica o delle grandi ideologie, a una Europa dell'umano che, prendendo a cuore la propria carne, possa nutrirla e possa curarla come si conviene. Con l'augurio di buon lavoro, mi auguro e auspico che veramente questa nostra Europa sia un'Europa dell'accoglienza, nella quale ognuno possa approdare per trovare pieno compimento alle sue speranze di futuro. Grazie e buon lavoro.
I'd like to thank everyone once again. It was a productive conversation. We'll see you tomorrow for the second day of the conference. Thank you all and good night.